today. Next slide, please. All right, so our agenda, and yes, that was my senior picture from high school many years ago. As always, we are in phase 1 of the WIT replacement, and that is the case management system, and then focused on the data migration from ETO to get over into our new system. Our agenda today, obviously, I'm doing the welcome very much. We'll move from that into sponsor remarks. We'll have our regular project update. There will be a chance for question and answers. As always, if questions come to your mind during the presentation, please drop those in the chat. We will get back to them and answer them at the end during our Q&A session. Or when we get to the Q&A session, if you need to, you can raise your little virtual hand and ask the question live. And then at the end, we'll have a survey, and very important for you to fill out that survey each time we have one of these, because that we take that feedback and then that helps us build out what we'll talk about in our next town hall and other communications. So oh yes, meeting objectives. So as I mentioned, we're going to give you the status of where we are. We've got updates on the project timeline, updates on site visits, and some exciting updates on the RFP. And then you'll have the chance to ask questions and provide input at the end. Greg Chilson, I do see your question. I did not go to Trenton High School. I went to Camas High School, Camas, Washington. We were the home of the Papermakers. And an exciting fun fact about the Papermakers is it is on the Sports Illustrated top 25 worst mascots ever, because our mascot was a paper-making machine. So before we go too much farther, I'm going to turn it over to our sponsors today for sponsor remarks. Today we get to hear from Bill Dowling and Mary Beth Sapinoso. You can see Bill's high school car there and a lovely picture of Mary Beth in high school. But I'm going to turn it over to Bill first for some remarks. Bill? Bill, if you
go ahead, Nona.
Yeah, if you're speaking, you're muted. So actually, let's turn it over to Mary Beth first, if she is available and ready.
I am. Thank you, Nona. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Mary Beth Sapinoso, and I am the CIO. And pretty much what that means is I'm responsible for the IT department or division for ESD. And first of all, I really want to acknowledge all of your attendance today on a Friday morning, on a summer day, and it's actually summertime now, Nona, and that's actually bringing us sunshine into the weekend. So for you, all of you, I mean, the number of people that are showing up today in interest of this project just says a lot. Just about our success, and your interest and your support means a great deal. So I really want to first and foremost thank the collaborative efforts between ESD and the LWDBs, and of course the work of the project team. The partnership that we have on this project is so instrumental in helping us all achieve our shared goal of providing the best possible service we can to our customers. And while I did not participate directly in an RFP team, I can say from previous experiences that putting an RFP of this magnitude on the market requires commitment, sacrifices, perseverance, and not one individual, but obviously of many. And ultimately, in the end, this RFP will not limit our challenges, but we hope to challenge our limits. And regardless of the apparent successful bidder, our mission in IT is to continue to leverage and build a technical infrastructure that is resilient to deal with the unexpected, elastic to scale appropriately without jeopardizing performance and durability in event of a system or storage failure, for example. And being a former IT project and program manager, I can appreciate firsthand the amount of work and effort that the team has achieved going into this project so far. It's a huge milestone. We do have an aggressive timeline with huge deliverables, and the team has been on top of it. And not only on top of it, but ahead of schedule. And you know that saying, you are on the right path. And if you're on the right path, it's always going to be uphill. And so I know that this is not the end. We're going to still have more uphills to go through, but I believe that the strength of this team and the collaboration and partnership is what's going to get us to the top of that hill. So teamwork, I want to mention something about teamwork. I have observed that we have the right people on this project, and it is evident and it shows. I want to stress how I'm so confident and so proud of this team and this project. And what I've also observed is that this project team is not afraid of what could go wrong, but instead of taking actions of what could go right. And that is a key spirit and attitude of a success of a project. So with that said, this project is a long-term project, and it's important that we continue to keep ourselves informed of what is going on and also provide the full transparency that we can, so there are no surprises, there's no assumptions being made, and there's no guessing of where we're going and how we're going to go about doing it. So with that said, also, I want to make sure that you please continue to attend these town halls. I know that you all get lots of emails, but that you continue to read through the emails that come along that particularly relate to the WIT replacement project, and that you also take the opportunity when you can, going to the Workforce Professional Center's WIT replacement project WA.gov page, and just getting just-in-time information and up-to-date information. Also, as you know, these town halls will also be posted on that page. So if you have any conflicts, and if you happen to decide to take a nice Friday day off, you can always go to those page to get the updated information of what you may have missed. Again, I want to personally thank this team for all the hard work and hours they put to get us here. I also want to recognize two unsung heroes. You know, we talk a lot about the team, and we know who the team is. They are part of the team, but without their leadership and also just their guidance, and also this just herding all the cats and getting all the right people together, we could not have done it without their leadership and their commitment. And that's to Linda Kleingartner, our project manager, and to Nona, who you all know and spears and lead this. And they are like the dynamic duo, and that are just so reliable, responsible, and just trusted partners. And they make our jobs make our jobs easy as sponsors and co-chairs, for me as a co-chair. And last but not least, like Nona said about her photo being years ago, unfortunately, I have to say for my photo, it is decades ago. So I wish I could say years ago like you, Nona, but I have to say decades ago. So that was my high school photo. I come from San Diego, so I went to school in San Diego. So I'm not a true local as far as my childhood goes here. But so anyways, I am excited for you to hear from Nona and Chad today about the IT vendor procurement, but I'm going to pass it over to our fearless leader, Linda, who's going to start us off and share with us the project timeline as Nona indicated, or unless, Nona, we can go back to Bill.
I think he may have had a conflict. It doesn't appear that he was able to join this morning. So you can go ahead and transition to Linda.
All right, Linda, take it away. And if you can share the project timeline.
Great, thank you. So good morning, everybody. And if you hadn't heard, you're going to hear this several times today, is that we got the RFP published not on time, but 4 days early. So the RFP was for the technology vendor, was posted on the Friday, the 17th. And so I'm super happy about that. What I want to just quickly highlight for you on this timeline is that I have made some changes since the last time I came to talk with all of you back in April. So what you will see on this timeline is that we have added in, we've completed all of the activities that we wanted to at the beginning of this year. So lots more yellow dots. We do have our quality assurance vendor on board, and so they will be partnering with me and others on the planning team to ensure that we are, I mean, they're going to be looking for blind spots that maybe I have or others on the team have. And that is a very much welcome and valued resource for us, is to have a third-party independent review of this project to ensure that we're doing everything we possibly can. So I'm excited about that. The company's name is ISG Northwest, which is Integrated Solutions Group. And I think a couple of them are here today watching, and they will be at all of our future meetings as well. So Kathy and Gasper, thank you very much for showing up today. A couple other things that I want to highlight is that I've added some activities that we're for the second half of the year. And thank you, Beth. What is an RFP? An RFP, I'm going to pause for a moment to address that, is a request for proposal. This is our mechanism that we use to secure vendors to come and work on the project. So this is a very expensive IT build project. And so what we do is we open it up to the public, and lots of technical vendors will submit bids. And so for the last half of this year, going to the timeline, you're going to see that the IT bids, which is them proposing. So we've requested for a proposal. And so what they do is the bidders submit responses in August. So our target date for that is August 7th, that we'll get those responses. And then we go through a series of 3 intense months of evaluating those responses. And so I'm not going to steal the thunder of Chad and Nona. They're going to talk you through those steps as to the next milestones that we will be going through. You're also going to hear about the OCM plan, which is Organizational Change Management. That was another key milestone, and thank you all for participating in filling out those surveys that Leanne had published. So with that, I think really what the best thing we could do is dive into the content specifically. So if we'll go ahead and go to the next slide, Nona and I just want to take a quick moment to thank folks. We've been on this project now in earnest for about 6 months. We had an amazing group of people, lots of stakeholders who participated in the RFP, the response for proposal, request for proposal process. We call them RFP teams. Their names are on the screen here, all the different folks that had participated. And I just want to give them a shout out for all the work that they had done to get us to this point. Nona, I'm going to transition to you. Anything that you want to add?
No, I would just echo what Linda said. I mean, this team has been amazing, and we can't thank you enough for helping us get to where we were able to drop the RFP on the streets early, which was very exciting to all of us. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts. All right, so an update on our vendor procurement. Once again, I'd like to point out I'm old enough that my pictures in my yearbook were in black and white because that's what we had. So you've heard us say multiple times, the RFP posted early, that we can't stop celebrating. We've been so excited by that, and we're really excited about some of the next steps when we'll start to hear back from the vendors and see who all's interested. But I wanted to introduce Chad Stoker. So Chad is our solution architect and has been an integral part of this team. And he's going to walk us through the steps of the RFP process. So Chad, I'm going to turn over to you.
Hey, everybody. So there is, here we go. So there's 4 steps to our process that we kind of identified. And I think this is, you know, indicative of how important it is to get this right, that we have these 4 steps in here. Obviously, there's the RFP written response where vendors respond by the midnight of, August 7th with, their proposals. And those proposals will be scored by an evaluation team. There's many groups, many folks that will be looking at and evaluating those proposals, different sections of those proposals. And once those folks are done, we'll be moving into kind of a vendor demonstration period for 2 weeks in September. And the core evaluation team will be evaluating the demos from the vendors that have made it through the RFP evaluation phase. They'll be doing things like demonstrating their product, helping us to understand their approach and their vision, not just through the words of the RFP, but in person, so it can be a little bit more interactive, and we can ask various questions and see what the screens look like, what the flow looks like. We can evaluate public-facing portal content or internal administrative screens, anything that we want from a case manager or other user story perspective. So that's happening in September with the core evaluation team. And then we move on to something called the technical review. And the technical review is completed by the ESD technical evaluation team. And that is where we're really drilling into the vendor's competency with their technical proficiency in the tools that they're proposing using, the alignment of those tools with ESD's capabilities and skill sets. And we're evaluating everything from their awareness of security considerations, data migration considerations, data security, software development lifecycle, how they deploy their code out to an environment for us to test, and how we're going to deploy it for dev and production. So things like that. The planning workshops will follow that, and that's where once we're fairly confident in a vendor or two vendors, if necessary, we're going to be getting into talking about the details of the plan, given their solution. Different vendors will have different solutions that they propose, and those solutions will have certain things that they have strengths and weaknesses in. And so depending on what we identify as a kind of a winning vendor, we'll be talking to them about planning out the project a little bit at a high level, and to get a feel for how they partner with us, how they interact with our staff. We're trying to make sure that we're developing a good partnership with the vendor that we select. And so this is a crucial phase where we're identifying how good of a team we can really be when we're about to go choose the vendor for the final announcement. So that's happening in October. I think that's about it in terms of what we're doing. There's these stars here that you see on the slide, and Nona's going to talk all about the stars because she's a star. So go ahead, Nona.
Thanks, Chad. And for those of you looking at these different steps, it may look like it's pretty dragged out over several months, but this is really important to how we pick the right vendor. We make sure it's someone we can work with, it make sure it's someone that can meet our needs. And so, as Chad said, we've got those 2 stars on there. So the first one is with vendor demonstrations, and that's September 12th to the 23rd through those kind of 2 weeks. That'll be an opportunity where staff will be able to sit in on the demos. So we'll have more information come out a little bit later this summer on how to sign up for those, but you guys will be able to see the vendor demos. So that's exciting. And then similar to that, once we get into October, those are those workshops that Chad talked about, where we're kind of going back and forth with the vendor. We're asking for something, they're giving us something. And that's really about making sure it's a vendor that we have a good relationship with and that we can work through those types of changes. And so there will be open forums there as well for you to observe if you want. In addition, during some of the planning workshops, there will be some selections for specific either staff from the local workforce development boards or their subcontractors or ESD to actually participate in the planning workshop rather than just watching. So we've really built out a thorough process, and I hope that that's giving you some confidence and excitement about what's to come. We know that we're excited about it, but I just want to assure you that yes, there are still opportunities for you to be involved and kind of see how we're going through these next several steps. So I'm going to transition over to Leanne, and Leanne is our organizational change manager that's assigned to this project, and she's going to give you an update on what's been going on. So Leanne, it's all yours.
Awesome. Thanks, Nona. Does everybody hear me? Can you just give a thumbs up if you can hear me? I think I'm off mute. Yeah, and I'm coming to you from a classroom out of Ballard High School, my high school. And as you can see, I was a child of the 80s and I love me some 80s hair. That's the best. So, oh, and so what did I drive to school? If I was in trouble, I had to drive the Chevy Nova. But if I was behaving, my brother let me drive his 69 Dodge Challenger, which was red and black, which also I saw some red and black school colors. Ballard had red and black was our colors too. So very partial to that. And Greg, please, I have changed. There's a lot more wrinkles. Still, if I could have an opportunity for big hair, I'm happy to put the big hair back on because I love me some 80s hair. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I think one thing I just want to talk about real fast is, what is change management and what is organizational change management? It's fairly new over the last few years. And this is, I think, the easiest way to how I think about change management. When you think about project managers, that's really technical, right? It's the technical side of the project. Where I think the easiest thing to think about organizational change management, it's the people side of the change. So technical side, project manager, change manager, we're accounting for and taking care of the people as part of the project. So I think that's the easiest way to keep that in your head as what is this change management that we speak of? So as you all know, we had an ADKAR survey go out, and I'll cover ADKAR because probably people are going, what's ADKAR? I'll cover that in the next slide. We did that 4/17 through 4/28. We had 469 employees complete our survey. Out of those 469, we had 406 identify, are you an ESD employee? So that broke down to 333 were yes, and then 73 said no, and 63 people skipped that question. So out of the 324, out of that 406, 324 identified which county do they support, where they work in. So we had 145 people skip that. And that's just interesting facts to know, or some demographics as we go through and I talk and I share some of the data that we've got around this. So this is our response demographics, just so you can see. And if you look on the right-hand column, that will tell you like what county they're from or if they're not specified. And on the next few slides, if you look at your number, you'll be able to see which counties they are, and that'll just help you. We are going to go out and reopen the survey and do some targeted collection because we do want to get some additional data from the non-ESD employees, especially in some of these counties where we didn't have anyone participate on that. So you'll get a targeted email if we are opening that for your area. So just know that that should be coming out early next week. So the change management philosophy that we use or methodology is ProSci. And so the big thing with ProSci is the ADKAR model. And what ADKAR is, it's awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. And it really is the philosophy that everyone goes through change differently, but there is a great model that helps people go through the change. And this model is, as if you do it correctly, then we get to adoption. And that's the whole thing, right? Like we want any change we're going through, we want to make sure everybody is moving through the process and that eventually everybody gets to adoption and we have successful change, right? Like that's the whole purpose of it. So the methodology is, and it's kind of, when you think about this, think of it like linear where you are in the project. So right now for us, we are really focused on awareness and desire. And that's because that's where we're at in the project. So when we get to training and when we're out training, that's when we're really focused on knowledge. And then we'll focus on ability. And then actually reinforcement, it comes at the end of a project normally. But as you can see, we are trying to really reinforce and recognize all the hard work and all the work that everybody's putting into this project. So you'll see a lot of that as we go forward, and especially at the end, once we get through knowledge and ability, which will be, in another year or so, you'll see us really focusing on reinforcement. So awareness is, what is the need for the change? What's the nature of the change? Why are we changing? And when are we changing? And then we have desire. And the desire is to support the change. What's in it for me? Am I going to participate in this? Am I going to engage in it? And am I going to be part of this change? That's where we are right now in the cycle of the WIT project. So we're going to talk about that, where we are based off of the data that we have available. And I'll show you in the next 2 slides. We will go out, because this is really our baseline. We've talked about that, I think, last town hall, that the whole purpose of this survey is to get us the baseline of where we are. And so as we go through and we focus on knowledge, we have a baseline of where we are before we get there. But once we do the training and once we have some deliverables, we'll do the surveys again just to see if all the things that we're doing, are they working? So just know you will see the survey again. These dates might not be accurate because we're going to wait and make sure we've accomplished some stuff and have some things to hopefully move the needle on where we were before the surveys were done. So that being said, here, and I know these are a little eyesore, so I'll talk through a little bit. So the green is positive, like that. These are the people that are saying, yes, we are good. And when you think of the questions were, in relation to the WIT ETO replacement project, evaluate the following statements on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 indicating strong disagreement and 5 indicating strong agreement. So if you answered 1, 2, or 3, you would be in the gray. And if you answered 4 and 5, that put you in the green. And the ProSci model is anything but below a 3 is a barrier, and that's an area we need to work on. So if you look at these, the good news is we're looking really good on, I understand the goal of this change, and then I understand the risk of not changing. And then so this is a good news story because our messages are getting out there. And then I understand the nature of my changes impact on my work and my group. Looks good. So awareness, I feel like we're doing really well in. I do think there's some opportunities we have, and we can, and we'll talk about that in the next couple slides. All right, so now desire. And again, I'm only focusing today on awareness and desire because we'll talk more about knowledge and ability later. It's just because we're just not there in the project. So that's why I'm focusing on these 2. So good news story, like if you look at, I believe the organization's motivations for this change are true and accurate. Awesome. Look at all the green there. And then so an opportunity is, I know what's in it for me. So this one right here is an area that we can spend some time really making sure everybody understands the importance of WIT and what we're going to be able to get out of that. So that's, we have a little bit more gray in this one. So that'll be an area we want to focus on. And then this one, we've got 2 questions on here. So I believe making the change is worth it and outweighs not changing. This is this is good. We're looking really good in this area. And then where we have some opportunity is I have been able to voice my objections and they have been taken into consideration. So you can see there's a lot more gray in this area. And we will make sure that we want everybody's voices to be heard and they're taken into consideration. So we, I think my next slide got some ideas on where you can share some of that knowledge. Actually, it's not my next slide, but we definitely want you to know we are hearing you. We are taking everything into consideration. I think, Michael's out there in the site visits and he's collected a lot of data. But then I guess, maybe we haven't started to see some of the changes or we haven't delivered anything yet, but we'll get there. So this is an area, and this will be interesting, and I'm going to be watching this as we go through and especially take more surveys to make sure we're turning this around and we'll see more and more green in this area because I know that we are going to be listening to you and taking your feedback into consideration. So that's a huge part of the project. So this one, and I really would love to hear any thoughts you have around this slide. This one does worry me a little bit because even though we say we're doing, our numbers look good for awareness, this is, you know, telling us that our communication isn't as effective as we would like it to be. So how effective has communication been to date to keep you informed about the project? I would hope to see a lot more green on this slide, but we do have quite a bit of red and orange, and the red and orange is ineffective and somewhat effective. So if you want to share in chat, if you even wanted to come off of mute and tell me, I'd love to hear from anybody who could tell, you know, want to share with us, what are some other ways we can be communicating? What messages are we missing? What other avenues should we be using? Just help us understand what we can be doing better, because it's really important for us that you guys are getting the information that you need and that you feel up to date. And so please, you know, I'd love to get some feedback. Okay, so Rick, I see create an echo chamber within your specific work group. Chad saying, don't be shy. The safe forum.
Can you repeat the question?
Well, there's a couple questions. So it's just, you know, we'd love to know what we can be doing better with communication.
I think you're doing a good job with communication. Here we are.
Okay, so Angela's saying Spark Notes type of summary at the end of these meetings to send out to everyone an email. Oh, okay, it's a good idea.
And this is Michelle Brown, and I just have to say that up till now, it's probably not easy to understand if you haven't ever done procurement, as in the question of what's an RFP, that's in grant writing and planning, those types of activities, if you're well versed in them, this up to this point has been meaningful. What's going to really be meaningful to people is when you get into the demonstrations and people would be able to actually participate in looking at the different products that are being what's the word for it? Viewed, considered, and I think then that people would have a better understanding of what's in it for me, and also just a better understanding of what the process is, and feel like they've been asked to engage in the decision making, and I think that's going to be more meaningful.
Thank you. I appreciate that feedback. That's great for us to hear. And I'm seeing lots of stuff in chat, some different ideas. I can't read them this fast or absorb them. So, but I will definitely go through all of them and see what else we can incorporate. Awesome. Any other thoughts or anybody want to share verbally?
Yeah, Leanne, this is Carrie Bear, and thank you. I mean, you put so much effort into this. I have to kind of second what Michelle Brown said. Is I prefer hands-on and a smaller group settings in a learning environment such as this. And so it's just a suggestion. It personalizes it. You could target each of the work source areas, whether it's by city, or regional, county, and that's the only suggestion I have. But I think the main interest will be once we get into the meat and grind of it and be able to put our hands on it and start working with it.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That's really good feedback for us. Awesome. Okay, well, keep stuff coming in chat. I love it. I'm going to move us on so we have time for Q&A. So one thing, and this is going back to, have I been heard, and are they listening to my feedback? But did you know, and I'm going to put this link into chat. Let me get it here. So that's the link to our WIT page. And if you have not, I highly recommend bookmarking this page. This page has all the information about the project deliverables. There's a monthly status report that is posted. I believe it's by the 5th. Linda, correct me if I'm wrong. We're posting all the town halls. They're recorded, so you can go back and listen to any of the town halls if you want. And we have a great, if anybody was not at the town hall that Michael presented in, we have a great little short version of just his presentation about the site visits, which is really good here. There's project resources, but most importantly, there's a link and you can provide feedback in this link. It's there you can put concerns, pain points, questions, suggestions, recommendations, ideas and enhancements, anything that you want to make sure that this team is hearing about. This is where you can go provide that information at any time. And we pull this form up at least weekly and look to see what's been submitted. And then we're sharing it with the project planning team, the implementation team, wherever it needs to go. So just know that, and just so you know, it can be anonymous. You don't have to say who it is. You can also say who you are if you want us to follow up with you, and we'd love to follow up with you if we have any questions, but it can be anonymous also. So just something to know if you have stuff you want to share, but you want to keep it anonymous, this form is a great way to do that. So please feel free to use this. This is a great way to get it, and then we'll have it all tracked, and we'll probably at some point, I would imagine, come and share some of the feedback that we're getting through that even on these meetings. But that's a great avenue for you to provide feedback, ask questions, put in suggestions and recommendations. So Nona, I think that puts it to you.
All right, thank you, Leanne, and thanks to everybody that put those great ideas in the chat. We'll make sure to capture all those and the team will look through them. So we're to our normal question and answer time. And so if you have questions, put them in the chat or raise your virtual hand and we'll call on you. Michael and I both, we put Michael on the screen since he usually ends up answering the majority of the questions. So that's a lovely picture of Michael at his sister's wedding in high school and me laughing hysterically at something. I don't remember what. So first question that we have, I'm actually gonna kick it to Chad, I think. It came in from Shane Hinshaw and says, curious whether we're going into this with any preference for mature products versus new custom developed products or providers. So Chad, could you speak to that a little bit?
So really important. And I want everyone in here to know just how important that is to me personally. When we were looking at mature products versus new products, I'm the guy that, you know, walks into a figurative house and understands how to remodel that house to make it look like what you want it to look like. So when we talk about software and we talk about new products, or we talk about products that are existing and maybe need to be tweaked, I understand very well how to modify those existing systems to make it be exactly what we want, and also what it takes to take new systems or new concepts and turn it into something that we want. So the bottom line answer on that is we're open to either. And I've personally got 20 years of experience doing both approaches and making that fit for whatever customer that I'm working with. It'll be based on probably our assessed confidence during those 4 phases we talked about in the selection process, and assessing our confidence in the bidder's ability to understand the nature of the work that we're asking them to do. And also their ability to adapt their solution to Washington State's unique situation. And that unique situation includes data migration from an existing system with less than ideal data. You know, we've got a labor exchange consideration, and we've got a you know, Perl reporting that we've got to shore up. And we also want to look at their flexibility for their customers, which is us, to fix issues in their system and add enhancements to their solution without us trying to figure out how we're going to come up with, you know, $1 billion to make that happen. So we want to make sure that we've got the right kind of fit in regards to flexibility, you know, and alignment with Washington State's, you know, business situation right now.
Thank you, Chad.
I can go on about that for an hour, but that's about it.
Yes, thanks, Chad. That's really helpful. I don't think we have any other questions in the chat yet, which is pretty surprising.
I actually wanted to respond real quick to one of the comments
Sure.
that, you know, unfortunately, because the site visits were a single day, often that created scheduling conflicts, people's inability to clear their schedule. And I want to assure this group that these visits will continue. I think as soon as we get through probably this evaluation period, that I'd like to start to get back in the field and to start to do these, hopefully not in such a condensed time frame, which will allow for planning at the individual locations to be a little bit more streamlined and effective. So rest assured, I'm coming back.
All right, thanks, Michael. Any other questions for us? Either drop it in the chat or raise your hand and we'll call on you.
So Kirk commented, a custom built product makes us very dependent on the vendor for the long term. That is true in certain situations. And there's a lot of variations on what people consider custom products. And I've worked with a lot of different people, and their understanding of what customization means, what configuration means when you look at software varies a lot across the board. And what I want to say about that is I recognize that we don't want to be in a situation where Washington State is dependent on a proprietary solution that we can't bring in either third parties, we can't bring in ourselves. It's only the vendor that we've selected that knows how to do anything about that system. That is the situation we're going to avoid as long as I'm able to raise my voice up about what's the right way to do software here and what's the wrong way to do it. And so I will not personally vote for or choose a system that locks us into a situation where we're dependent on basically one organization or one bidder, and we can't do anything else about it if we need modifications or enhancements to the system. That is not something that I'm going to condone. And I don't think we're going to end up there. I think everyone in the steering committee and on the evaluation teams is on the same page. And so I think we'll be able to look for that and determine where it's best to avoid that situation with this next round of evaluation.
And I think, Chad, so there's a follow-up comment to that. At the same point, a straight off-the-shelf thing might not meet our business needs either. So.
Yeah, again, I'm the guy that can go in and look at a house or look at a piece of software and know exactly how we can modify, extend it, and change it. So off-the-shelf solutions mean a lot of different things. And there's actual solutions that are in between. You know, there's solutions that you guys out in the field right now are using that are in between solutions, right? And those solutions are things that we're looking at, considering the pluses and minuses with them and how we can maybe leverage them. But we are kind of trying to stay focused on platforms that are well-known, well-used, especially if they're well-known and well-used by customers out in the field and already being leveraged, right? So we took a pretty in-depth look at a lot of different solutions and tools that not only you guys use, but all the other 50 states use. And we interviewed a lot of those customers, those downstream customers, about the things that they saw when they were using those platforms. I personally interviewed a lot of those people and learned from some of their application managers and IT directors what they saw when they were using those solutions downstream. So it was really informative, and I think that'll come into play when we look at the evaluation process.
Thanks, Chad. So Jairus brought up a great question, and it's a great reminder for all of us. He said, now that the RFP is posted publicly, what should staff do if they're contacted by a vendor who wants to ask questions about the project? And that's a great question, and I can tell you that some people on the planning team have already been contacted. Please do not speak with vendors about anything having to do with this project. Your best bet is to refer them to the point of contact on the procurement, which is the ESD procurement team. That is where they can get questions answered. So just a firm reminder not to be talking to any vendors if they have questions about the product, or, you know, what is it you're replacing, or why didn't you like ETO, even though I know we all have lots of things to share there. Please don't. Just send them to procurement. Michael, I think I will kick this one to you. Deborah says, are we looking at software used by non-medical organizations?
Yeah, definitely. I think that there's a tight analogy with hospitality, but we're absolutely considering software solutions that aren't proprietary to just a medical domain. Absolutely.
All right. Any other questions for us today? Okay, so Jessica says, as we continue to think about the functions we want to see in the new system, is the best way to communicate those thoughts still in the WIT replacement page? If so, can we reshare that link periodically with folks? Just reminding them there repeatedly would be helpful. And yes, Jessica, we absolutely will remind that. We remind it during town halls. I remind it at any meeting I'm presenting at. But yes, that's probably your simplest way. Like, you know, if you're sitting there at work and you think, wow, I really want to get this information to the team, use that link on the Workforce Professional site, which Leanne has most helpfully just dropped in the chat again. That is the way to get information to us. And we do look at all of that. So thank you. Other questions? All right. So Leanne, I know the other thing that we want to make sure we do, and we talked about a little bit earlier, is please take the survey that Leanne just dropped in the chat. It looks like we'll be ending a few minutes early today, so you've got plenty of time to take the survey before your next meeting. That does help us drive future town hall sessions and what we're going to talk about. So we'd really appreciate the feedback. As a reminder, there is the Workforce Professional Center project page again. That is the best place besides these town halls to get updates on what's going on. It also has the feedback mechanism there. And our next online town hall, other than this afternoon, will be Friday, August 26th. Once again, we'll have the morning session at 9 a.m., the afternoon at 2:30. They have the exact same content. Please only come to one so we can manage number of people on the calls. And they will be recorded and placed on the Workforce Professional Center page. They usually show up about a week later. But yeah, so that's where you can get caught up. So on behalf of the entire team, I just want to thank everybody for attending today. We certainly appreciate your engagement and your passion about knowing what's going on in this project, which is vitally important to all of us. So as always, if you have questions, you've got the contacts right there. And thank you for coming today. And I hope you have a great summer. Bye, everybody.